For most of my working life, I had one goal in mind: a peaceful, comfortable retirement. I imagined it often, sometimes while stuck in traffic on my way to work, or while sitting in long, drawn-out meetings that should have been emails. Retirement, I told myself, would be the reward, the payoff after decades of responsibility, a spacious house, quiet mornings, golf on Thursdays, maybe a couple of vacations each year. No more deadlines, no more bosses, just peace. And you know what? I got it. I retired at 66, debt-free, healthy, and with a modest nest egg. I had the dream: a nice house in the suburbs, 2 empty guest rooms, a grill I rarely used. Freedom. But then, one afternoon, I opened my fridge and noticed the milk had gone bad. It expired over 2 weeks ago. I stared at that carton for a long time, not because I was upset, but because it meant something. No one had been in my house for 2 whole weeks. Not for coffee, not for a chat, not even me, really. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just living alone. I was alone. The early days of retirement felt exactly like I had hoped. No alarm clock, no suits, no traffic. I stayed up late watching old movies, let myself sleep in until 10. I cooked elaborate breakfasts, pancakes with blueberries, scrambled eggs with chives. I even tried sourdough. Every day was mine to waste or savor, however I pleased. And at first, that freedom was delicious. But after a while, the silence stopped feeling like peace. It started to feel like absence. They say houses have personalities. I believe that now, because my house, once lively, full of noise and laughter, began to feel like a stranger. Worse, it felt like a museum of a life that no longer existed. I wandered from room to room like a ghost. The guest room still had my daughter's childhood posters. She hadn't slept there in over a decade. The hallway still echoed memories of late-night footsteps, my wife laughing as she snuck ice cream from the kitchen. The garage was packed with tools I swore I'd use someday. But that someday never came. I'd walk into the kitchen and see 6 chairs around the table. Yet night after night, I ate alone, reheating soup, flipping through channels I wasn't even watching. I began to ask myself a quiet question. Was this it? Had I traded 40 years of hard work for echoes? One afternoon, I was dusting a shelf I hadn't touched in ages. Behind a row of old books, I found a photograph. It was my wife. She had flour on her nose, smiling as she leaned over a mixing bowl. Her hands were mid-motion, blurry with movement, caught in a moment of pure joy. I hadn't laughed like that in a long time. I hadn't felt like that in a long time. Later that night, YouTube suggested a video, one of those living simply stories. A retired couple had sold everything, moved into a small home, and never looked back. They looked free, not just financially, but emotionally. Light, unburdened. It wasn't envy I felt, it was possibility. That was the seed. For weeks, I wrestled with the idea. Could I do it? Could I really let go of this house, the place where I raised my children, shared anniversaries, painted walls, planted trees? What would people think? What if I hated it? What if I missed the space, the comfort, the familiarity? But every time I opened another closet and found stacks of linens I hadn't touched in years, every time I passed the empty dining table, every time I stood in the driveway staring at the same old mailbox, the decision became clearer. What I was holding on to wasn't comfort. It was weight. Selling the house was the easy part. Letting go of what was inside, that was something else. I started with the simple things. Clothes I hadn't worn in years, unopened kitchen gadgets, expired pantry items. Those went quickly. But then came the photo albums, the old letters, the scarf my wife wore every Christmas, the tattered drawing my daughter made in 3rd grade that hung behind a closet door for decades. Some days, I sat on the floor for hours, surrounded by boxes and memories. Sometimes I cried. Sometimes I laughed out loud at things I had forgotten. Sometimes I just stared at an object for so long it stopped looking real. I didn't part with everything. Some pieces came with me, but for each thing I gave away, I felt lighter. Letting go isn't a single decision. It's 1,000 little ones. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. It's modest, bare walls, a kitchen just big enough for one. The floor creaks, the bathroom fan hums, but there's a window that faces a small park. And when the afternoon sun hits just right, the whole place glows with gold. At night, I sleep better than I have in years. No echoes, no ghosts, just quiet. Because now, the space around me matches the life I want to live. Clear, simple, enough. Everything I own now fits into this small space. 1 pot, 1 pan, a cast-iron skillet my mother gave me, 2 mugs, a small bookshelf, a few well-worn novels, photo albums, a single framed picture of my wife. I kept the stories, not the stuff. And the strangest part? I don't miss the rest. I used to keep the TV on just for background noise. Now, I sit with silence. And it's not empty anymore. It's soft, like an old friend who doesn't need to fill the air with words. That voice in my head that once said, "You need more. Buy something new. You're not there yet." That voice is quiet now, because maybe I am there. Every morning, I walk to the park across the street. Same path, same bench, same old man feeding the birds. We nod. Sometimes we talk about the weather, or which bird flew in that day. Nothing profound, but it feels real. Back in the suburbs, I didn't even know my neighbors' names. Now, I feel like part of something, small but human. I started painting again. I hadn't picked up a brush in years, but one day I bought a small set of watercolors and just started. I painted the park, the bench, the birds. I painted my wife's old scarf. I painted my apartment window when the sun poured through in the morning. Then I started writing little stories about my life, my childhood, my fears, my hopes. When I shared them with my grandkids, their eyes lit up. That moment, that connection, it felt more rewarding than any paycheck I ever earned. If you had asked me 5 years ago what happiness looked like, I would have told you. A big house, a comfortable chair, a full fridge, a new car. Now, happiness is clarity. It's knowing what matters. It's letting go of what doesn't. It's looking around a small room and realizing there's nothing missing. Not because you have everything, but because you finally stopped chasing things that never filled you. If you're still here, if you're watching this and feeling that quiet heaviness in your chest, I want to tell you something. The weight you feel might not be age. It might be clutter, old expectations, unfinished plans, stuff you're carrying without realizing. You don't need a grand gesture. You don't need to sell your house tomorrow. Just start small. Clear 1 drawer. Donate 1 shirt. Let go of 1 thing that no longer serves you. And then, listen to the space, to the silence, to yourself. There's a whole new life waiting. Not when you get more, but when you finally choose less.